The shofar, made from the horn of a ram, is sounded on Rosh Hashanah. The shofar is always curved, it's bent, symbolizing humility as we stand before the great Elohim, Adonai, Yahweh, God. In fact, Tashlik, Rosh Hashanah, used to be called the sounding of the shofar. Now, there are at least 3 distinct calls of the shofar that are used on Rosh Hashanah. The first is one long blast. It's called Keeper. The second, Cartreine, is 3 short blasts. And the third, the Trump, is 9 quick blasts. One long blast. Well, that's to show that God is one. And that the loving God is first and foremost the servant of the people. God's only concern is that people live in happiness and harmony. Shavern, 3 short blasts. When we think about the year going by, we know deep down we haven't lived up to our full potential. In the coming year, we yearn not to waste that opportunity. 3 short, wailing blasts is the sobbing cry of our hearts, yearning to grow. In fact, the Kabbalists say that these are a collection of the spirits that wish to change the world's evil into good. Teru, 9 quick blasts. Well, that's a spiritual alarm clock. We need to wake up beyond the objective about our lives. We know where we've been. We know which direction we're headed. The shofar brings us clarity, alertness, and focus. The shofar blasts echo in different parts and rhythms of our lives. The great Jewish philosopher Leibniz viewed the sounding of the shofar as a call to repentance. As Czechoslovakia fell under the brutal Nazi boot in 1939, there was never a greater need for the sound of the shofar, for a call to repentance. At just this moment, Waitstill and Martha Sharp arrived in Prague. As many of you know, Waitstill Sharp was minister of this church at that time. He and Martha would become heroes of repentance across Europe, which is the story told in the PBS movie Sharp's War. They were heroes, and they are still celebrated today. When the Sharps first arrived in Prague, they were invited to go to the opera. And on the evening of March 14, 1939, the Sharps sat in the Prague National Theater's presidential box. They both loved opera, and they were grateful for the respite from the oppressive tension all around them. The National Theater, though, would be no refuge that night. whispered rumors and endless speculation over President Haka's mission to Berlin and Adolf Hitler's intentions flew through the air, made things nervous and distracted in the ornate old opera house. After the opera was done, the scene that followed was very emotional. The audience rose in tears and sang the national anthem, "Where is my country?" Thank you, Susie, for this piece by Dvorak to help us bring clarity and focus to our own needs for healing. Thank you. To be a community of healing requires dedication and a willingness to dig in, to fix what's broken, to listen away each other's pain, to battle the bad guys and gals, to ask forgiveness when we are not the good guys and gals. It takes work. It also takes perception and sight as well. This is, of course, what the story of Martha and Waitsfield Sharp is about. They were both owned by the loving potential of people and possibilities. To be the kind of people we want to be, the good gals and the good guys and everything in between, we have to dig in and learn about ourselves. And sometimes that's pretty hard to do, but it's necessary if we are going to go beyond the superficial and learn how to heal by forgiving ourselves and others. This is what William Sloane Coffin learned some years ago. Some of you may remember the name William Sloane Coffin. He was very well known during the end of the Vietnam War, during the Vietnam War. And he, in fact, was the model, along with Scotty McClellan, a Unitarian Universalist minister, for the radical chaplain in the Doonesbury comic strip. In any case, he was fired from his job as chaplain at Yale University in 1975 for a variety of things. Also, his 20-year marriage to Eva Rubinstein came to an end, and his son died in an automobile accident, all in that same year. And his response to that, as you might expect, was to rage at the universe, to find all the reasons why this was not his fault. And in fact, he raged so much at the universe and made so many complaints to all of his friends that they soon each recommended that he needed to go into therapy. Into therapy, of course, because that's what we all do when our friends overwhelm us with their complaints and concerns and rages against the universe. And I dare say a few of us have gotten into therapy that way. I certainly am one of them. In any case, Coffin decided, well, okay, I'll go into therapy, but I'm going to find a sympathetic therapist. He decided that he would look for a woman therapist. She'd be sympathetic. And he thought he'd get a pastoral counselor. Believed that might be more gentle than confrontive therapy. So he went into the first session with his therapist, and he was raging against the universe. He was talking about how unfair life had treated him. On he went, and she pulled out of her bag one of those Salada tea bags that has a saying on the tab. And as he was in mid-rage against the universe, she handed it to him. And he looked down and he read it. This is what it said. Don't be too mad about the way the ball bounces if you are the one who dropped the ball. If you are delusioned, she told him, it is because you had illusions in the first place. If we are going to heal ourselves and forgive others, we have to look at ourselves with depth and with insight, just as the poet Ursula Niebuhr said, just as no river runs deep until it finds its bank. None of us can find depth until we start to understand and forgive ourselves, even to understand and forgive others. This is how the loving potential of people and possibility is released through healing. An understanding of Rosh Hashanah can help us gain the perception and insight we need to begin to heal through forgiveness. Judaism begins with this declaration: Hear, O Israel. Hear, O Israel. But what does it truly mean to hear, to understand? The person who hears the words of friends, spouse, children, and does not catch the note of urgency, notice me, help me, care about me, does hear but doesn't hear. The person who stifles the sound of conscience and says, well, I've done enough already, hears but does not really hear. Imagine this scene. This would be happening tonight in the Jewish tradition, and it would be taking place in wherever Yahweh, God, Adonai is. And picture the ruler of the universe preparing for the yearly task of ultimate significance. Adonai, God, takes out 3 books, 2 modest-sized, 1 gigantic, and using whatever rulers of the universe use to write with, God writes in the book of life the names of the few, the very few, who were righteous in the past year. And then he writes in the other small book the names of the very few who were utterly evil during the past year. And then Adonai, Yahweh, gets divine writer's cramp from putting the rest of us in the 3rd book. Now imagine it's Rosh Hashanah evening, tonight. At the Rosh Hashanah service, the shofar will be blown. Its airy tone signifying God's call to the people and the people's call to God. At this service, we, the countless millions in the very large 3rd book, resolve to spend the next 10 days in preparation, in repentance, restoring our lives to more wholeness, to fix what is broken. A book intended for Jewish children puts it this way: this is a time for us to think of what is good and what is bad and how we can heal. And if we do it right, when God checks on us in 10 days, we will be in the book of life. And understanding and forgiving ourselves and others. This is how the loving potential of people and possibilities is released through healing. My old friend Rabbi Epstein in Situate, of whom I spoke before, tells a little story of this. On Rosh Hashanah evening, he asked how many people in the congregation had forgiven their enemies. A couple of hands went up, and he asked, how many of you would like to forgive your enemies? And, well, almost all the rest came up, except for one, and that was the oldest member of the congregation, Sadie Horowitz. Mrs. Horowitz asked Rabbi Epstein, are you not willing to forgive your enemies, especially on this day when God forgives us all? I don't have any enemies, said Mrs. Horowitz. Very impressive, said Rabbi Epstein. How old are you? 98, she said. What a blessing. What a lesson to all of us. Would you mind telling us how a person can live to be 98 years old and not have an enemy in the world? Mrs. Horowitz faced the congregation and said, I outlived them. Since we are not likely to outlive all of those we need to forgive, longevity will likely not heal us fully nor release the loving potential of people and promises. Healing the world is part of why Jews practice teshuvah, repentance, during this time. Another translation of teshuvah is turning around from our worst ways, moving back toward the fundamental goodness that we can feel somewhere deep inside us. You see, the world hangs in the balance right now. It hangs in the balance between good and evil, and it's up to us. It's up to us to heal ourselves and the world. The gap between the unimaginably wealthy and the genuinely poor is no gap. It's a chasm of Grand Canyon proportion. Humans continue to degrade the earth as if there were a couple more Earths to spare. Horrors are committed in the name of religion, perverting profound good that comes from practicing the humble, open-hearted faith of possibility in people. During the next 10 days, we are called to the profound responsibility we have to heal the world, to strike the balance toward justice, hope, and the future. By choosing the good, we are choosing the loving potential of people and possibility.